Greetings, Marcus Melnick here with FirearmMentor.com, coming at you with more firearms knowledge. Today we're going to talk about reloading. We're going to define it, we're going to figure out what the costs are, what the equipment that you need, and how it all kind of works. So when you shoot a revolver, the brass remains in the firearm, you actually have to eject it out. And when you fire a semi-automatic firearm, the shell casings eject. This is a shell casing. You can see that there is nothing inside, there's no powder, there's no projectile on the end of it. And you can see that the primer, the small silverish disc at the base of the cartridge, actually is indented. That means a firing pin has struck it, and this is a piece of fired brass. So, what do reloaders do? Well, they pick up the brass from the ground or they eject it in their hand. They have machinery that will punch out this primer and put in a new primer. These are primers at the base of the bullet. It crimps it in. The machine does it for you. And then what happens is they measure out a specific amount of gunpowder, and gunpowder can look like little discs, little balls, little cylinders. It's the same. It reminds me of pepper, black pepper. That's what it looks like, a little bit more potent than black pepper. They'll fill it with, not even fill it, they'll put in a precise amount of gunpowder or powder charge, and then they will place a projectile on top that really doesn't fit, but just for illustration, and the machine will crimp it down in place, and then you will get a full cartridge ready to fire. So that's what's involved. The equipment cost is pretty significant, several $100s up front. You will need to purchase things like a scale, a turret. Growing up, I always use a single stage turret, which means I would have to punch out, just for an example, 50 primers at a time, punch in 50 new primers at a time. Then I'd set up with the powder, fill it up with powder, and for 50 times, and then I'd crimp the box. Very, very time intensive. So you will need a turret kit. Progressive reloaders are the way to go. You'll also need a caliper to measure. You can't eyeball it. It is precise measurements. You may need a brass tumbler, and people say you need a manual, but everything's accessible via the internet. And you will need training on how to do it. Now, growing up, my father was an engineer, and he had a very, very technical mind, and he did all the brain stuff, and I did all of the physical labor. There's a lever that you have to pull each time to crimp on a bullet or punch out, and I was the muscle as a little kid. After he passed away, I continued to reload and realized after ruining about 300 rounds that I didn't really have the technical knowledge to continue. So this is high level. I do not reload. I have reloaded in the past. Some of it was successful, some of it wasn't. There is an inherent danger to it, so I decided to mitigate my risk and stop. All right, so let's talk about costs. I just ordered some factory 9mm. So I just bought some 9mm, and I paid 38 cents a round. 38 cents for one cartridge of ammunition. So if you were to reload with the cost of the components, and I did research, and ammo prices and component prices fluctuate. So tomorrow, the numbers may not exactly jive, but for the moment, for tonight, about 24 cents a round it costs. So that's a cost savings of 14 cents a round. Or if you're thinking in terms of boxes of 50, you're gonna save about $7 a box. So definitely less expensive, but there is a cost and there is some risk. So first of all, you're gonna have to spend several $100s on the equipment. It's gonna take you years to recoup that cost in savings from ammo. Factory ammo is now coming down. For a long time, it was about 7 cents to reload. Components, because of COVID, because of the buying rush, have all gone up. So the negatives to reloading are, number one, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of focus. You cannot be distracted. So when I was a kid, there was no such thing as a cell phone, but I highly recommend you do not have a cell phone. Don't watch TV, don't watch TikTok, don't watch my YouTube videos while you reload. You need to be uber focused on putting in the right amount of powder. You don't want to be the guy who's got a big cigar hanging out of his mouth, and believe me, I love cigars, who fills this with powder when really you should only fill it a little bit, and kind of brushes off the top with the cigarette or the cigar and says, that's all right. And then all of a sudden the gun will spontaneously disassemble, which means explode. You do not want to do that. I always went with very, very light loads, enough to cycle the slide, and that was it for the range. And the reason why is the gunpowder goes further. Gunpowder, there's a cost to it. If you use less powder in each round, recoil is going to be lighter, and you're still going to shoot at the differences are going to be negligible. There are people that do reload for competition, and they want a very specific load. They want a specific type and amount of gunpowder because their goal is to get as many bullets on target as fast as possible. So there are advantages to it, cost, but I don't reload now because I have lost all the technical knowledge in my head, and I do not have a large chunk of uninterrupted time. You cannot be interrupted. This is not something where, you got to wait till the kids go to sleep to do this. That's what my father did. He waited till I was asleep. And I thought there was aliens in the vent because I could hear the radio. My room was right above the workshop. So it's kind of a little funny story. Anyway, that's reloading in a nutshell. If you have any questions, please comment below, like, share, and subscribe. And I would love to hear from you. Thank you.